What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite dating coach, Elliot Scott, and as you can see by the title below, and there's a lot of writing on the back, we're going to talk about the 5 things a man thinks about when you start pulling away, when you start playing the game, when you start acting cold, wanting revenge, you're done with them, whatever it is, okay? So, jumping right into this, and these are all going to correlate with each other, right? A man can think multiple things, and depending on what stage he's in, it can switch up. So, in the very beginning, right, he's going to think, trust me on this, he's going to think, should I play the game back with her, okay? And there's a reason why he thinks this. First off, we have to define what the game is. And unfortunately, a man, when you start pulling away, okay, and I'm going to talk about it more here as you can see. When you start pulling away, he's not just going to let it happen. Now, you might think so because he's not saying anything to you. He's not reacting the way that you want, right? But he does have questions, okay? He wants to know, right, if you are actually done, okay? He wants to know who has the power. And because of this, he might play the game back. That means he is going to call your bluff. He is not going to respond. He is not going to look at your stuff. He may even try to make you jealous without you knowing, like it's very nonchalant. It might not be directed towards you, but because you're snooping, hopefully be like behind your phone or whatever, like he has no idea, but he knows you're still looking. He is going to play the game too, okay? So that's the first thing. He is going to wonder where you stand. And by him playing the game, I think he can get a lot of information from that. Now, the reason he wouldn't play the game is he actually just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit. And that's kind of where a woman's at a disadvantage because you do not know if he's actually playing it or not. And that might get you to go crazy. Again, we'll get into why that's important. Another thing he might think, and this is kind of in contrast with this, they can go together, but again, a little more contrast. He's thinking, oh shit, she actually has more power than I thought. Like she actually is walking away. She actually doesn't give a shit. And there's 2 layers of this, right? I always tell my clients there's 2 levels of convincing a man that you're done. The first level is obviously he's not convinced. You may be doing the things you're supposed to do. You may be pulling away, not answering anything, never initiating, no happy birthdays, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, none of that. You're not looking at his stuff, okay? But he still knows based on the evidence, okay, meaning everything you guys have done up to that time, you hooking up with him, you saying you're only talking to him and no one else, you saying you want a relationship, you guys talking for months and months and months. Like all those things are important factors, right, for him to understand where you're at. So if this is the timeline, oh, can you see this here? If this is the timeline here, and let's say you just, okay, like this is the beginning of you pulling away, the beginning of you 2 talking, and let's say you talk for 3 months, okay? Let's say you talk for 3 months. Like, you pulling away for 3 weeks, 1 month, like, it might not be enough, because this entire time, right, like you were talking to him and showing that you're really interested, you're going to need more than a couple weeks to convince the man, oh shit, I'm done. Which kind of leads to the next thing. If you're doing the things you're supposed to, even though he's not convinced, right? Meaning he knows he can just come back and say whatever and get you. But if you're doing the things you're supposed to do, then he goes to the next stage, which is he's convinced now. Again, we are very evidence-based creatures. We are looking at this whole thing and being like, okay, I thought she would cave. I thought she would reach out. She did last time we did this. Like whatever it is. And if you're actually holding your ground, now, my favorite word, guys, risk is involved, okay? Risk. He doesn't want to lose you, right? We'll say lose you here, and we'll say commit here. Hopefully you can read all this. Like I said, he's playing the game too. He's playing the game to get an advantage. He's playing the game to get the advantage, to kind of, call your bluff, see where you stand, see if you'll cave because you did last time, whatever it is. But now that you're doing this stuff, okay, well, it's like, well, now there's a risk because it's going this way. Oh shit, I might actually lose her. But he doesn't want to commit either. He wants to keep it right here. But if you're showing, hey, I'm actually done, well, then he needs to move this way, right? Like he has to make a move if he actually cares and doesn't want to lose the assets. So that's another thing, right? This kind of goes transitions to number 3, which is, how do I get the odds in my favor? How do I get her back? Or how do I get the assets that I want? And here's the unfortunate thing, ladies. This isn't always the case. It depends on when he comes back. So I always say there's the 1 month, the 3 month, and the 6 month. Well, if a guy comes back 1 month later, I think it means 2 things. One, the whole thing you guys were doing, you were pulling away. If you're pulling away and he reaches out in a month, it's one of 3 things. One, he took you for granted and is apologizing, realizes it. 2, the whole thing is impulsive on both ends. Like if he's trying to play the game too and you're pulling away, he's like, oh, I'm going to do it too, right? It might be impulsive. It's impulsive, okay? Well, actually, it's just 2 things. And then I say 3 months, usually a guy will come back, especially if you're the one pulling away and pulling some bullshit. A guy will come back in 3 months because I think that's how long it takes for him to actually realize you're gone, okay, and process everything, to know what it's like with and without you. And then 6 months, I always say if a guy comes back 6 months later, he's just trying to get it in. A guy is not going to miss you 6 months later. A guy is not going to all of a sudden fall in love with you 6 months later and realize that you're the one. That's not the case, okay? Which kind of goes into what I was going to say here. A guy wants to get his odds in his favor, okay? He wants the advantage. If that's the case, you have to understand if a guy's already pulling this bullshit to begin with to make you pull away, more times than not, if you guys are talking again, he doesn't want you, right? He wants the assets. This is the unfortunate thing. The guy wants the assets. So we're only on 3 numbers so far, and I really want you to see the common or the correlation and the common variable with all these, right? At the end of the day, it's risk avoidance. That's just what it is. I know I preach that 1,000 times, and a guy can like or dislike you and still be at risk, right? Risk of losing the assets, or if he likes you, the risk of losing you and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's playing a game. Okay, he's playing a game. That's the first one. The second one, he realizes you have more power than he initially realized. So he might have to adapt to the game. Or like I said, he might be convinced by the evidence that, you still like him. You're just doing this to get a result. So he's going to call your bluff until you're very convincing of it. Okay, and if that's the case, like I said, it moves here, which is, okay, well, how do I get this advantage back? And it's only 1 or 2 things. He can either just cut it off and call your bluff and try to, stall you out, which is a lose-lose, or he can come back and sweet talk you and stuff like that, swallow his pride. But like I said, if a guy's pulling some BS to begin with to get you to do the things you're doing, like pull away, being cold, I think he just wants the assets, right? Which then leads to the 4th thing. Okay, well, we're going to play games then. You have to understand, think of games as a war. I hate to say it like that, but think of games as a war in this scenario. Because, again, evidence-based, okay? A guy is looking at every single thing that happened between you guys. You did this, you did that, you sucked him off the first date. You said you never did this before, but you do it with him. You give him a million chances. You guys talked, for a long time. You said you want a relationship. Like all these little variables, they add up. And when he sees this, okay, he's going into war knowing he has an advantage, or he's going to try to use this to his advantage at least. So he's going to try to play the game. But like I said, and when I say the game, I mean like the, stall you out, trying to be quiet, trying to make you jealous, maybe reach out to see if you'll reply. If not, this, that, maybe weasel his way back in. Just because he caves and starts talking to you doesn't mean he's not playing the game, right? He wants to see how you react when he does that type of stuff. So when a guy comes back late, that's important to know. But he's going to look at all this stuff and play the game accordingly, okay? But this doesn't happen till later on. Like I said, this probably happens around here, the 1 to 3 months. If 6 months later, it's just pure assets. I think that should be common sense to a woman. Now, of course, there is adaptation, okay? We're going down to 5 now. I have to come up with a new plan. This isn't working out. And his plans are always going to consist of 2 things, ladies: reducing risk and increasing the assets, okay? That's why I tell women, there's times where, again, a man comes back 3 to 6 months, 1, 3, 6, whatever. A man comes back and he has these 2 things in mind: to reduce the risk and to increase the assets. A man has no problem caving in and saying, "I miss you, baby. Oh my God, you're so amazing. What was I thinking? I'm such an idiot. Let's try this out again." If he can get the assets, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit. And I call this the wider lens. I have a video about it, but in a nutshell, he has a wider lens. He knows more than you do about the situation and how it's going to fold out. So an example of this is, I'm going to give you some cruel examples on both sides for a woman and a man. For the man advantage, I'll give the example of, if you and I are talking, I say, "I want a relationship," right? Like, you hear that, you see it. Again, your lens is what you hear and see. Oh, he says he wants a relationship. Okay, good, let me move forward. But I have the wider lens, knowing I'm fucking bullshitting you. I have the extra variables, the extra knowledge. No, I'm bullshitting you, just saying it to get in your pants, right? So you're at a disadvantage. Whenever it's a power dynamic thing. You can't always prevent it. You just have to be aware of it, and play the game cautiously. So whenever you don't have the wider lens, you're at a disadvantage. So to flip this in contrast this, example where a woman has a wider lens and a man has a smaller one, which is, I'm taking you out on a date, and I'm like, "Oh man, I'm going to get it in with her tonight. She's laughing at everything I'm saying. She's picking up what I'm dropping. We have amazing chemistry. The shit we're flirting and saying on, through text, I'm definitely getting it in." And though, hey, it's nice that he's paying for all these dinners. Yeah, we have a great connection, but I'm not that type of girl. I'm not going to sleep with him tonight, right? So you have the wider lens. You know something that I don't know, and I, of course, find that out at the end of the date. But that's what this ends up being. A guy's going to try to come up with a new plan to get assets and to reduce the risk. If he's missing you but doesn't want a relationship, he's going to try to get it right here, right back in the middle where it was, where I don't have to commit, but I don't want to lose you either. So he will say things along the lines of, "Let's see where it goes. Let's take this a little slower. Let's start over. Let's try this. Let's try that. Give me some time." He'll give you all that bullshit, okay? So, ladies, with that being said, if you want to get a session with me, link is down below. I would love to work with all of you. We can go over your situation specifically and break it down so you have all the knowledge and insight you need to make the best decisions and understand what's going on. Ladies, I love you all. Take care and peace.